you ended up moving to Indianapolis. That's where you're currently residing. And you started Howard Veterinary Services back in 2013. It was a mobile practice providing veterinary services to undeserved communities and individuals unable to, take their pets to clinics. Is that a byproduct of growing up in Marion, you feel, and wanting to fill that void for others?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, grown up without a lot, and so my primary job is in research and drug development. So work for a large contract research organization. So dealing with things like, cancer cures, diabetes, HIV, COVID is one of the big things we do right now for a lot of the pharmaceutical companies. But, secondary to that, I'm always a veterinarian. I like people, and so while I was in Indiana, after leaving Stanford, I really saw a need. People would stop by once they found out I was a veterinarian and hey, can you help my mother-in-law? She's, she's disabled and she has a big dog. She hasn't been able to get to the clinic. Can you stop by and just take a look, And so I started getting that more and more often. And then as I looked around the footprint of Indianapolis area, there were probably 1,000 veterinary clinics, but there was no one willing to go to people's homes anymore. And if you don't know about veterinary medicine, that's how we started in veterinary medicine. Many, many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, vets would come to people's houses, go to farms, and they would treat the people. Little Black history, vets would treat the slaves because they couldn't, the slaves couldn't go to the doctor. The vets would treat the slaves, things like that. So now it's shifted more to where there's more clinic based. You can see a lot more patients in the clinic, and it makes sense from a business standpoint. But I noticed there was a huge part of the community, particularly the Black community in Indianapolis, that was not able and not, doesn't have the resources to get to the clinics. And so I started Howard Veterinary Services just to fill that void that I saw in the Indianapolis area. So I had over 1,000 clients within a little less than a year. Based on word of mouth, based on other clinics, like, oh, I'm glad you go to people's houses. We always get people wanting us to come to their home, but we can't service that. So it was really more business than I can really handle, but it was good work. A lot of elderly people, a lot of people with big dogs or animals that were scared to get in the car, scared to go into clinics, things like that, and they would be very calm. When I would see them at their home and provide those veterinary services. Work with a lot of nursing homes. A lot of those people were allowed to have pets. They need to keep their pets up to date on shots and vaccines in order to keep them in the living community. So I would go to nursing homes and I would vaccinate, 30, 40 cats and dogs, in one shot, just because, I would be there and those individuals would put the word out and they would bring their pets, and that way they can live in those communities with their pets up to date on all their shots and vaccines. So it was a great thing. It was also good for me as a business owner. I learned so much. I ran that practice up until late 2020, because till COVID hit really good. But I learned so much about networking, so much about, I had members of the Indianapolis Colts who were, my clients. I had, a lot of people who were underserved also. And I just exchanged so much information with other business leaders, and we learned how to help each other. So, the way that works, you have something that a service that you can provide. They have a service that you might be interested in too. You might barter, things like that. So that was pretty cool to find out, not to mention the tax implications. I had no idea about the tax, benefits of owning your own business. So my Howard Veterinary Services was an LLC, limited liability. And so had a certified accountant in small business teach me a lot about, finances. Had a financial planner that taught me a lot. And so I used my career, my main career to supplement, my private practice. And then I used both of those to really, get a good financial foothold for me and my family.